Hey, what's up YouTubers? Lee John Blackmore here at Super Easy Guitar. So this week we're going to cover how to change chords faster. So you've been playing those songs and you keep on stumbling on that one difficult chord you can't get to. Or you might have been playing a while, this isn't just for beginners guys, and you're a little bit frustrated because you haven't quite mastered how to get that tone really nice and how to get the speed and tone working together. So I've broken this video down into 10 easy, simple steps that you can actually go back and forth and you can just use as a resource, okay? Like I said guys, it's not just for beginners. I've given you tons of tips and tricks. For example, try changing the chords without actually putting pressure down to save your fingers, so you can actually put more time into changing those chords, okay? And stop moving your hand radically, okay? So there's just a few examples of what I'm going to cover. Now, if you get to the end of this lesson and you found that things still aren't improving, I've put some bonus tips right at the end. So I've got 5 bonus tips and some advice you must watch even if you've been playing guitar a while, because I'm sure there's stuff in there that will completely change the way you play guitar. So make sure you stick around to the end guys. Without further ado, let's zoom in and get straight into it. Tip number 1, the first thing you have to do is be able to change the chords slowly. Don't try and run before you can walk. I see so many people doing it. Make sure you can play those chords and they sound really nicely. Now don't worry about the speed. If you've got them sounding really nicely, as you slowly progress into speeding up, they're going to sound much nicer. However, if you're just good at playing, the 2 chords and then the third one's really hard, you're gonna have this kind of broken time. So start off with playing them really simple and slow, but try and connect them. Tip number 2, using a lead finger. So in this case, we're going to go from D to E. Now, what I mean by a lead finger is the first finger of that D chord, which is in the 2nd fret on the G string, the 3rd string. When it comes to playing E, instead of lifting it off, it's going to lead my other fingers into the next chord, okay? So what I do, I don't remove my first finger, I remove my 2nd and 3rd, slide my first finger down into the 1st fret, then reposition my 2nd and 3rd finger, and I've got an E. And then you just do that in reverse, remove the 2nd and 3rd, slide and reposition and move. Okay, so that's a lead finger. Some people call it an anchor. So if you wanted to go from D to G, you could do it like that. I'm going to use the sweet G in this case. So my lead finger in this case, or my anchor finger, the one that doesn't move, is going to be my 3rd finger. So when we're playing a D, now I want to keep this 3rd finger down and we're going to go to a G. So then I'm just going to move these fingers and then slip the pinky on underneath. And then I'm going to go back. And you see how this finger doesn't move at all. Much easier and much quicker. When I mentioned in the beginning, play your chords without actually pressing down. So you don't have to strum either. So if it's like the progression I was playing at the beginning, which was A minor, G and C, just get used to moving into those different shapes. Now I'm doing it quite quickly here, but what I want you to do is go really slowly and actually look which fingers you change first, and then just think about the strumming. You don't actually have to do it. If you find your fingers are getting really sore, which they will do if you're a beginner, start by not pushing, just go between these chord shapes, whatever the chord shapes are. What I like to call the 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1 method. Okay, so the 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1 method is just referring to chords. Let's take this progression that I've been using. Say, for example's sake, you have the chord A minor, you're very comfortable with that, and say you have the G. But you're really struggling to get from the G to the C. Now, ideally, what we want is there's G, and then you see they all get placed down at the same time on C. If you're not that good at playing a C, what I want you to do is do 1, 2, and 3, just like when you first learnt chords. 1, 2, 3, and then strum. Now the second time around, I want you to use the 3, 2, 1. So you're going to go, you could do the A minor and G first if you like, and then you go 3, 2, 1. So the third, second, then first finger. Okay. Try it again. So you could go A minor, G, 1, 2, 3. A minor, G, 3, 2, 1. And what you'll find is, as you're changing and you get used to those two positions, you'll find that in between. Because what effectively we're doing is getting used to the fingers playing in this position all the time. And we can do that by placing them individually. Tip number 5. The air guitar chord. Okay, yeah, I know, I've just completely made that up. So what I mean by that is, whatever chords you're learning, let's stick with the same chords, the A minor, the G, C, let's throw a D in there as well. What I want you to be able to do is be able to play them in the air. So that's A minor, so I just want you to take the pressure off A minor and bring them back up off the fretboard, keep the hand in the same position and bring it back on. Okay, and there you go. And bring it off. Now you'll know that as an A minor. All right, okay, the claw, bring it back on. And that would also work for an E major, look, if you just bring it over. So there's your E major, the same kind of shape, okay? So bring it back over, E major. So there's your air guitar claw, if you like. Let's do it with a G. So there's your G, okay? Now I'm gonna pull it off. There you go, there's your G chord. It doesn't look like a G chord, but it feels like one to me. And then I just go back on, okay? And off and on. And yes, there is a little bit of movement, of course. Let's have a look with the D, okay? The D, and move it off, and look, there's the D chord, okay? And bring it back on, and there you go. Let's do the same thing for C. So there's your C chord, and relax, bring it off, and there's a C chord, right? And your fingers will get used to playing these positions. And let's go straight back on to a C. And yeah, again, slight bit of adjustment needed. That's going to happen. Let's do the same with an F. And there's my F down there. Okay, let's put it back on. There you go. And what happens after a while, the fingers will gain that memory. Well, not the fingers, but it's an old-fashioned term. It's what we call muscle memory. And it's a good way of kind of just drilling that in, putting the fingers on, keeping the shape, taking it away, and putting it back on. Tip number 6, the blind test. So what do I mean by the blind test? When I was a kid, and I've heard other people talking about this as well, when I was a kid and I was learning guitar, you know, my mother always used to say, you know, get to bed, turn your light off or whatever, get some sleep, because I'd be up all night playing the guitar, right? But what I'd do, I'd sit in bed with my guitar, which is terrible posture. You should never do that. But, and I used to sit there and just, I couldn't see my fingers because my light would be off, you know. And I would just run through the chords. It doesn't matter what song I was learning. I just run through these chords and test myself. So what you want to try and do is definitely look away and figure out, you know, how those chords feel under the fingers. Close your eyes or play in the dark, put a blindfold on or whatever, and see how well you get on. Now, if you're cheating, you're just cheating yourself, right? Because this is about testing yourself and making improvements and being able to play through these chord changes quicker. So what you'll find is when you lose your eyesight, your touch and your ears will enhance. You'll hear the notes. You'll hear where you're going wrong. Okay, try it now. Sit there, close your eyes, see if you can change chords to your favorite progression. Let's see if you can do A minor, G, C. Put a D on the end, then a D minor, then an F. Test yourself. So tip number 7. Now I see a lot of beginners making this mistake, and it's a simple mistake, and actually I see a few more kind of intermediate players do it as well, and that is when you're moving between chords. Oh, I can't remember the chord. Oh, there it is. Oh, I can't remember the chord, and oh, what's the next chord? Oh yeah, it's down there. So it's playing the chord, removing your hand before you even know where you're going, bringing the hand, I mean, that's extreme. I don't really see many people doing that. But bringing your hands too far away from the chord positions that you want to play next. So basically the tip is try and keep your hand in position, then move to the chord. So let's take, for example, just A minor to G, and then... And my hand does move a bit, but nowhere near, and my thumb definitely isn't moving out of position, okay? Instead of this, and I see so many people going, oh yeah, and yeah, and then, oh yeah, that's it. Keep your fingers in position, move the fingers. Number 8, it kind of relates to number 7 as well, but you know, so now you've stopped moving the hands, but the fingers are actually moving too far away from the frets, so you want to keep everything nice and close to the frets. For example, let's do an F and then move to a C. Now you probably can't see it from that angle, but my fingers are just coming off a millimeter. Really, they're not coming off much at all. They're not going far at all. Whereas, you know, again, you can keep the hand in position, but I've seen people kind of move the fingers way too far away from the strings. So you want to keep everything nice and close when you change in between those positions, okay? Keep the fingers as close to the strings as you possibly can, okay? And that's going to just make things a bit more efficient, and it's going to help you speed up. Now, number 9, it's not so much of a tip, but more of something to practice, something that really you ought to know, and that's what I call the ABCD. Okay, so the ABCD is just half of it really, because it's A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now, you should be able to transition through those chords really slowly and comfortably. Now, I can hear you saying, oh my gosh, I don't know how to play bar chords. So if you can't do bar chords yet, if you can't play that B, just replace it with a power chord. Okay, so A, B. I'm just hitting the 2 strings I've got my fingers on, okay? Then C, D, E, F you can do the easy way, or the bar, if you really want to practice your changes, and then G. Now see how long it takes you to get through them. with a bar chord. You should be able to do it under 15 seconds, okay? So if you're somewhere up, like time yourself, if you're somewhere up 30 odd seconds, though, maybe longer, you know you've got something to work on. Now really, you see, I want those chords to ring out. I want them to sound nice. None of this business. You want them to sound nice, right? So the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You could do it with minors as well. A minor, B minor, C minor, D minor, E minor, F minor, G minor. It's a bit more advanced, but why not try it? Finally, tip number 10. Take a master chord, then change to another chord and back to it. Now, what do I mean by a master chord? Let's just take A major. So let's just say, there's no particular progression I've got in mind. Let's just say we're going to do A to G, then A to D. Okay, so we're going to go A to G, right? But obviously then we've got G to A. Practice speeding that up slowly. Then take A to D. A to E. A to C. C to A. But everything's going back to that master chord. So when you're comfortable with that, change the master chord up. G to D. That should be much easier from the tip I shown you earlier. Then maybe G to C. Now you could play that a different way. You could play G that way and then C that way. That's just with my second, third and pinky. And then C, planting that first finger down. Let's say G to F. F to G. Or a bar chord. Or two bar chords. The whole point is you always go back to that original chord that you started off with. So you could do the entire A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but going back to that same chord every time. So you could go A, B, A, C, A, D, A, E, A, F, A, G. I mean, it's not about how things sound. It's not the progression itself. It's the doing it. And so on. So congratulations, you've been through the 10 tips. Hopefully they've helped you out. However, there are a few other things you need to think about as well. One of them being, when you are practicing these chords, don't push the fingers down too hard. And again, you don't want to put them too soft either, otherwise things aren't going to sound very nice. But I see so many people concentrating really hard and you end up with very sore fingers very quickly. So try not to leave the fingers down and really squeeze them. Normally what you'll find is as well, if you're squeezing the hand here, you'll be tensing this hand and you'll be strumming too hard with this hand as well. Something else that is massively important, and I always see people making the same mistake when you're learning a song. Let's take that progression I did at the beginning. I see this a lot. Which is okay when you're learning, but what you want to try and do is not stop strumming. Keep it going at all costs, even if the chord doesn't sound very good. What you might find is going on. And you're like, well, if I keep strumming, it sounds terrible because I can't get the chord on quick enough. Doesn't make any sense, but actually that's exactly what you want. You want to force yourself to continue with the rhythm, which then, you'll start to get it, right? But you keep the timing as well, so you're not breaking the song, okay, as you're playing it. It doesn't matter what chord you're doing, try and, count out loud if it helps. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. The other thing you could do, you could put on a metronome. It's not the nicest thing to do, it's not the most fun thing to do, but it will massively improve your chord changes and improve your timing. Now, I've been teaching a long time and it works. I've also seen people on Instagram like John Mayer also practicing with a metronome because it's very important, okay? So obviously I also practice with a metronome and it will help you improve, and you can guide yourself. You can slowly push up that BPM and you will see how you're improving and where your limits are. So the third piece of advice I would give you would be to actually play along with the original song that you are trying to learn. It might be way too quick for you, and if it is, all you have to do, get the first chord in the right place, then work on getting the first and second chord. So if the guitar player is going, you just have to just see if you can get one stab in there at the chord, and eventually you'll be able to do more, and eventually you will be able to match the rhythm. Tip number 4, it's an obvious tip, but like I was saying earlier, when I was a kid, I used to lay in bed playing the guitar, and there were certain chords, especially bar chords, that I couldn't do because the guitar was on my lap, and I'm self-taught. And it took me not very long to work that out. So holding the guitar correctly, putting the thumb in the correct place will have a huge difference on how you're sounding. People talk about having pain in their wrist and stuff like that. It's all to do with the posture of the way you sit and the way you hold the guitar. Is the guitar too big for you? If it is, you need a smaller guitar. If the guitar's too small for you, you need a bigger guitar. It's all these things can contribute. Finally, I get this question almost every single week. Are my hands too small? Are my hands too big? Well, let's be honest here. Everybody has got different size hands. And of course, guitars are built to standard sizes, and having small hands sometimes can be really handy for playing kind of solo stuff, but not so much for chords. So it actually doesn't matter what size your hands are. I mean, if you look on YouTube, there's guys playing guitar with their feet. People are crazy. Django Reinhardt, he only had a few fingers later on in life because they got burnt and he had them removed, and so he just played with a few fingers but continued to play. Okay, so these things, yes, they make things frustrating and you feel like you won't get there, but you'll find a way around it. Okay, I don't have the biggest hands in the universe either, but there's certain chords you'll never see me doing because they're, quite frankly, they're just annoying, so I find a way around it. Okay, so I urge you to do the same thing. There are a few other things you can take into consideration as well, just like when I was talking about in my bar chords video. Make sure you've got fairly new strings. If you're trying to learn and get fast on old strings, it's never going to be as comfortable or as nice. You could reduce the gauge of the strings to make things a little bit easier, and you will gain a little bit more speed. But you're always sacrificing something for another. So by lightening the gauge strings, you might be sacrificing a bit of tone. If you don't mind that, I mean, I used to play with electric strings on an acoustic guitar when I had a bad wrist. and I kind of got used to the sound. It's fine. So it was very much horses for courses, okay? Another factor that could contribute to not being able to get chords fast enough, and take this with a pinch of salt, the action might be too high on your guitar. Again, just like I was talking in my bar chord tips video, if the action is too high on your guitar, perhaps you need to look at having it adjusted professionally. And guys, don't try things at home yourself. You might completely destroy your instrument. It's really not worth it. And of course, I should say this in every single lesson, if you're still frustrated, don't worry, don't give up. It will improve, but you have to keep doing it, okay? And if you find you're super frustrated with it and you're on the verge of giving up, find yourself a teacher. I mean, my advice would always be find a teacher in the first place, okay? Always find someone that can sit in the room with you or sit opposite you online one-to-one and show you where you're going wrong and all the things that work for you personally. These things, they're just advice. They won't work for every single person out there, but hopefully they'll guide you to a better place and help you improve. So there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this week's lesson. Please don't forget, hit that subscribe button if you'd like to receive my weekly updates. Don't forget, there are some links below to a great Spotify playlist. I've done virtually all the songs I've done lessons for. And if you'd like to send me a request, hit me up over on Instagram. I've also set up a donation button over on my website. Any loose change you have, guys, I'd massively appreciate your support. And that helps me just continue to make these videos. Again, enjoy, guys. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you again the same time next week.